This is Pierre-Luc Leblanc, and you're listening to the one and only Sheriff Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to an exclusive episode of The Sheriff. Today, guys, I have a gentleman that I actually first started watching when I started watching the NHL. Now, this gentleman has been an idol of mine for a very, very long time. Ladies and gentlemen, to play pro hockey is a dream for most Canadian kids. It is a blessing to be able to have a good pro career in North America. But ladies and gentlemen, it's very, very rare to be a star and have a successful career in both Europe and North America. Ladies and gentlemen, today my guest did both. He represented our country also for the World Juniors. And ladies and gentlemen, he's one of the nicest guys that I've ever met. Without further ado, Mr. Dave McLlwain, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Finding great to meet you.
Yeah, I know, man.
Playing this hookup for a while.
Yes. Well, there's that, Dave, but also, like, you're one of those guys that I've heard so much about, but I've never actually met. And I've actually had a couple of those examples recently. So, I mean, I feel blessed, brother. I'm really pumped to have you on the show.
Well, I'm always excited to talk a little hockey and tell a few stories, I guess.
Yeah, dude. And Dave, like, you're obviously a huge character. And like my style is I like to go right to the beginning. I want to try to figure out how this character was developed and the special path that happened. So, I mean, I want to go back to Seaforth, bro. I want to go back to Seaforth. I know it's close to where my brother-in-law is from, which is Godridge.
Okay.
But tell me about Seaforth, Ontario, my friend.
Well, I think any kid growing up in a small town, we were road hockey, then it was mini sticks, then it was anytime we could get on the ice, whether it was a backyard rink or the local arena, we were on it. And I was very fortunate enough to live maybe a block away from our arena. We knew the arena manager. I mean, I could go on forever. I mean, I remember the days just of my dad playing, and I couldn't wait for them to get off the ice because I knew they were going to sit in the dressing room for another hour and a half of, replenishing the fluids that they had lost, right? So lights would be off. We would be running on the ice, sometimes skating, but more in our boots, just playing around with the ice. It was embedded in you as in a small town, and every kid played it. So it was from a very young age, and you just kind of develop that passion for it, and you go from there. Started hockey in Seaforth. We were never a big center. We were maybe 2,000 people, so we always had the label of we were double C, not even close to triple A. Yep. So we had to kind of work our way up, and the triple A in our area was not really around when I played. So I hear about kids traveling now in different locations. Like the farthest we traveled was maybe 25 minutes to Wingham. We went to Clinton, we went to Mitchell, a couple tournaments a year, but that was it. So we thought those were the greatest thing. And then I see, my nephews are a different age now that they were able to attend these AAA tournaments, get to different parts of the province or even over to Detroit, whatever. So it has definitely changed a lot since I started.
Well, yeah, Dave, it's funny that you got into that because that was going to be one of my next questions, like how exactly the minor hockey works. So my first question was, now, how big of a town are we talking here? Are we talking 5,000, 10,000? So 2,000 people in Seaforth.
Well, we always say it was maybe 2,100 and 22 if you come in the other direction. They just haven't changed the sign yet. So it was definitely small, but we've had a lot of people come out of Seaforth in the last maybe, what would I leave, 35 years ago, I guess. We started with Lloyd Eisler, who was a figure skater.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Remember Lloyd? Lloyd was the fourth boy, and I guess I was kind of next, and then we had a big following of a bunch of guys that come out after mine once I left. And I think different scouts have told me when we were in these smaller areas that they just didn't want to travel that far to watch these small towns. So one scout says, why do I want to go watch one guy when I could go to London or Toronto and watch 15 guys? But
Yes.
I think once they saw that there are opportunities or guys that can possibly make the jump, then they started coming. And the guys that were after me actually went other places, sooner than I did, whether it was junior B or major A or college route. There's different scenarios for different guys.
So now, and thanks for sharing that, Dave. So now, like, what I'm curious about is, and I love asking guys this because, like you guys are so humble, and but I want to know the truth because I want to know your opinion. What age do you think it was, Dave, where you started being like a really good player? Like, when did you start getting ahead of everyone else? Like, when would you say that started?
I think maybe 8.
Okay, so pretty
I don't know.
early on.
I'm just saying that because you're in a smaller town. We were lucky if we could get 3 lines together. It was always 2 lines and maybe 1 or 2 guys. So you were on the ice every other shift. So the development was happening kind of natural then, and more or less just playing. I don't remember being totally coached, do this, do that. It was just kind of like open the door, let you go, learn to play, watch a little bit. We never had video. You never had YouTube. You never had all these channels that kids
Yes.
are able to see and try different stuff. And I mean, I'm jumping around, but I see what the kids are doing and
No,
how
it's great.
they're very talented. I'm even watching TSN to pick up a few moves for our alumni games. So that's kind of where it's at. But we never, I don't know if there was the pressure there that when we played, it was just go out and play, don't really think about it. And I never really had that pressure where I think if you're starting the younger age playing the AAA, there's that, people are expecting things more so of these kids. And it was never there, never from my family or father or anybody, and never had to tell me to get to the rink. It was just, I think you did it because you love the game. So I think that can be a difference with kids too. A lot of kids like the game. I think a lot of difference with guys that maybe move on or different scenarios really love the game. So
Mhm.
I think there was a fine line with that part, even though you like it, but are you willing? Do you want to do it? Are you that passionate about it? Right. So I think it starts to separate as you kind of get older and guys get doing different things or different interests, I guess.
Now, Dave, and I wanted to add to that a little bit because like I'm a stat guy, right? So
Yeah.
when I look at the numbers, like Dave, like I was the guy when you were on the road and you guys got to the dressing room, I was the guy on the team that grabbed that stat pack first and
Yeah.
was like, okay, usually I was
Yeah.
looking for the guy with the most penalty minutes on the other side,
Right.
but I also have a passion for the numbers and I listen to what you're saying about not getting that pressure early on and kind of being able to develop and really have a love for the game, right?
Yeah.
And dude, like when you get now, I'm going to ask you how to pronounce it. The team in Seaford, I'm assuming that it's a junior B or a tier 2 team.
It was actually Junior D.
Junior D.
Yeah.
So Centenaires, how do you say that?
Centenaires. Yeah.
Centenaires. Okay, so that is how you say it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
So it was like a local, same age as Junior B, obviously. So it was
yeah.
a development league, and yeah, I think I played there at 14 or 15. So you're playing with guys that were 20, could be 20, and I held my own there. So it was just kind of like they were bigger, they were men. I was maybe 150 pounds soaking wet, maybe equipment on top of that. But it was, I think you develop, you kind of play your game and just, I didn't really think that much about it and just played.
Well, see, this is the humbleness that I'm saying that I really like. So you're saying you held your own. But Dave, like as a stat guy, like I'm looking at the stats and I'm seeing, okay, the first year you step in, obviously you're a huge impact player. It says here 45 points in 34 games as a 14-year-old. Then the next season you come back and you almost double that, Dave. Like you had almost 80 points in 30 games,
Yeah.
right? So like you embrace that system, like the system of supposed to be 16 to 21-year-olds, but you did it
Yeah.
as a 14, 15-year-old.
Yeah.
You really developed a lot just in those 2
Yeah.
years. But then, my friend, I want to talk about Major Junior. Unless you have a story about the Centenaires,
No,
I
no, it
can't
was,
wait to get to Kitchener.
yeah, that was a whole, that's I think I'm thinking now I had to be maybe 15, 16 because I would be
Okay.
midget or U whatever they call it now. I'm so out of touch with what they are and what you can't say.
Me too.
But anyway, yeah, those were great years. I was able to play in front of Seaforth, our own town, as long as I could, and you're playing with guys that you used to watch when you were younger playing junior. So it was a good development to kind of grow as a player. I was able to play midget and junior, just being how they could do it back there, and
Yep.
yeah, then the opportunity came. I can kind of go through it, how it happened. So we're all at that
Please.
age, there's the OHL draft, right? So we're going to possibly be drafted. I went to a development camp at 16 in Kingston, and it was kind of like a lot of the all-star kind of from different areas, but I had to send in a resume, had to give in kind of why I should be there, where I think some of these other guys from the city were like, yeah, you're coming. I remember Derek King was there, Jimmy Peck, all these guys that I saw later down the road. And I think there were scouts there that actually took notice a little bit. It was like a week or whatever. A gentleman got me tied in with that. But as the story goes, we're up for the draft year, the midget drafts in Toronto. You always go down. I think there was like 21 rounds or something at the time.
Yeah, there's always a lot of rounds in the OHL.
Right. So Guelph calls me and says, you know what, we're thinking of picking Dave in the 7th, 8th round. And we're like, okay, that's great. Okay, we'll be kind of, and as a young guy, you're going through, you're there at 8:30 in the morning, you're sitting there, waiting for your name to be picked. And then 7th round comes. And then I always had this competition with another local small town guy, but he was in Durham. His name was Dave Hopkins. We only played them in the playoffs. So the story goes, Guelph comes in 7th round. I'm thinking I'm getting picked. They picked this guy.
Oh.
So it's just like, okay, so they picked him, go through all the rounds, and I never got chosen. So you leave there feeling kind of like, all right, this didn't go so well. Maybe one of your first major letdowns of your career, but it was like, okay, whatever happens. Monday comes, and Guelph calls, says, we never drafted Dave. We want to invite him to camp. And my dad's just like, yeah, you know what? You can go, jump off the end of the pier. There's no way. An hour later, Kitchener calls, and they say, we saw Dave never got picked. We had our eye on him. They tell you whatever you want to hear, but we'd like to invite him to camp. So Dad, he had some experience with the Rangers when he was younger. He says, hey, let's go. You'll try. We'll see what happens. So as the summer progresses, everything goes on. But I was planning to go to St. Mary's, which was a local junior B team. At the end of the year, that year before, I went for a couple skates with the Stratford Culletons. So at that time, very well known. Dad knew the owner, kind of played with him or whatever. Eddie Olchuk was there. He was 16. He was lighting it up. He had like 1,000 goals that year. So I go practice in the playoffs. So I'm kind of practicing, didn't play, but I'm thinking, okay, I'll maybe go back there. They didn't call me, so I committed. I'll go to St. Mary's. This is all fine. Summer goes through. I know it's getting along. I go to St. Mary's, practice for a week, because junior B always starts before major A. So then I leave. I said, I'm just going to Kitchener. I'll probably be there a couple of days, because at the time you didn't want to lose your scholarship eligibility.
Yeah.
So I said, I'll probably be back in the 48-hour rule.
Mm-hmm.
So go to the camp. It's on Labor Day. Started Friday, Saturday. So after Saturday, I'm talking with my dad, and we're like, well, maybe the college ways is better. I'm kind of walking out, pick up my gear, walking out, go by Tom Barrett was the coach. And he looks and he goes, where are you going? And Dad said, well, this is a situation. He goes, you know what? You have a good chance of making this team. So right then we had to make a decision. Do I stick around or do I go play junior B? So obviously it happened that I, stuck around. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right, buddy.
Ended up sticking around for the rest of the training camp. Well, the funny thing was, who shows up at training camp after a week and realizes I might possibly make Kitchener? Stratford Culletons. So
really,
like, if it doesn't work here, talk to my dad, will you come to Stratford? But I've already said I go. And my dad was furious. He's just like, you know what? You can go right off. Like, I knew he was pissed. It's like, you had a chance. but all of a sudden you didn't think he was good enough. Now you see him doing this. Now he's good enough. So,
Yeah.
those things go on.
Jumping onto the bandwagon.
Yeah, as a father, and it's like, they were well known. Nelson Emerson went there, Rob Blake after me that time. So they would have had a great team. Maybe college scholarship way could have been, but ended up in Kitchener. So decent year. They were trying to get new young players because they just went to the Memorial Cup. So there was opportunity. It was a learning experience. Third, fourth line, not a lot of ice time when I played on two teams the year before. So, but you got your strong, you learned, you saw what it was kind of like to be Major A. Because I went to the tournament the year before, and I'm like, I don't think I can play out here. Like, when you go and watch a game sometimes,
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's just like, these guys are big, they're fast, and you should never
watch.
The
Mem Cup tournament you went to?
Yeah, just to watch a couple of games.
Yeah.
The year before, and I was wondering if I was big enough, strong enough, fast enough, these type of things. So, but I think, as you played, once you get out on the ice, it's different. You become one of them. It's very similar hockey. You just don't have as many mistakes, but it's raising your level to, even when it was there, to pro, to minor pro, to NHL, like, it's just being able to adapt. The game's played very similar, but just faster. Everything's faster and harder, but sometimes the better hockey is almost easier to play. It's not as scrambly. Guys are positioned.
Everyone's where they're supposed to be.
Right. And if you can think the game, then it's just maybe makes it a little easier. Guys are bigger, of course, and stronger. You had to that's when hockey would take your head off if you were looking for a puck, right? So now, my dad always told me that was one thing he always said was, if something's coming through the middle and you're looking behind you, let it go. Because these guys are looking to put you in the third row. But, you had to be smart there. Now I think kids are doing it, but they have that. Guys are hesitant to hit, obviously, to the head because it's a big part of a crackdown in NHL or even junior, whatever, even minor hockey. So that's kind of the route how it went to get to the junior part.
Oh, yeah. No, it's awesome that we're on Kitchener right now because I want to ask you, the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium, okay?
Yeah.
I went to the game on Friday, this past Friday, okay? And I did a little special with the Rogers OHL cast, and because we're both Rangers alumni, right?
Yeah.
And this is my hockey card from when I played in Kitchener, and we made a shirt of it and kind of made an event of the whole thing, right? But what my point is, Dave, is they made these incredible, I can't think of the word now, promotions to the building, the additions that they made. They have these suite boxes, they have additional seating. Like the arena is like literally a mini Maple Leaf Gardens.
Yeah.
Right? When you played Maple Leaf Gardens. Have you been since the renovation? Sorry, that was the word.
I was there, I don't know. They had a Memorial Cup a bunch of years ago.
Yeah.
And I went for a couple games. I met Todd Warner there. We played in Germany together and blah, blah, blah.
Right on.
And I think there was some stuff that was redone. I can't remember if it was totally to that level. Maybe it was. I can't remember. But wasn't Kitchener kind of a mock-off of the Garden, like a smaller?
Yeah.
Garden?
Oh, yeah. But yes,
so,
exactly. That was the idea. But since the latest renovations, Dave, you should see it, man. I couldn't when I walked in it. I walked in the arena. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this is very nice rink. I was so impressed, Dave. You got to check out a game, Kitchener Rangers games. They'll treat you like a king. Yeah. They'll treat you like a king, man.
I do know a couple of guys on the board that are from Seafort. They're diehard hockey fans, and Dave's Doug Bach and his son Chris. So maybe get down, check a game. I'm just wondering though, do you have a shirt from every team you played on from junior with your hockey card on, or?
I would have to be printing out a lot of shirts, Dave.
I was doing my homework. See, you did it all in junior. I did it in the NHL where
I know.
I was moved around a lot.
I know. Don't worry. We're gonna get to that 14 year.
Okay.
We're gonna get to that year. Man, you had such an awesome career. But okay, so right now we're in Kitchener. Now you said, as a player that, was playing on the multiple teams the season before. Yeah. Now you finally get to the major junior level and you start doing well. You're doing well, man. You had a really good season. You have 35 points in your first year, right?
Yeah.
But what I found was impressive is the improvement, the development of your player. So what does it tell me as a stat guy, as a guy that played major junior, as a guy that played pro? I look at this and I'm like, this guy and not only embrace the system, but in order for him to go, Dave, and listeners, pay attention, 34 points his first year, 72 points his second year, and ladies and gentlemen, 119 points his third season of major junior. In order for this to happen, the coaches, the brass, so many people have to be pulling for the player. His teammates have to like him. He has to be incredibly coachable in order to progress like this. So Dave, I gotta put you on the spot here, man. Now I know that this was split with North Bay, but I gotta talk about your billet situation because it seemed like everything in your life must have been working out good, bro, because you sure did well.
Yeah, I guess there's a few factors that kind of go into that. Obviously, ice time is one of them.
Yes.
As junior, they kind of bring you in as younger, and you develop, and you normally play more, and they see you in that role. My second year in Kitchener did start well, and then I don't know how many games in, was maybe 7 or 8. I can't remember. It was early in the season, maybe November, and Tom Barrett called us into the office. It was a Thursday morning. He goes, we've traded you to North Bay. And I was devastated. All I could think about was that 4-hour ride to North Bay. We were going to have to do that all the time because Kitchener was close to home. Travel was, relatively easy. So he goes, you're going to have to meet North Bay in Hamilton tonight for a game. So who do we play the Friday night back in Kitchener against the Rangers? So there's Doug Stromback, John Keller. So we drive to Hamilton to play the game. My parents come down. I go home and stay with my billets in Kitchener. Next day we have the game, and that night we go out with your old team, and you're still like you're in a fog. Like the first 2 games, I don't even remember. Like it was kind of like then you're back against your old team on the other side of the rink, different colors, and you're just it's a lot for a younger kid, and you're moving farther away from home. So we get out that night, Friday night. Then we come back to my billets. It's like 12 o'clock, and we have to leave the next morning to drive up to North Bay. And all 3 of us, I don't know how we fit in my car and our stuff and whatever. So late at night, we decide to phone Tom Barrett, our coach, and we said, he didn't pick up. We left him as like, we're not going. We're not doing the trade, right? Like, we don't know. We're just kind of young, and then we get up in the morning. It's like, away we go. Like, they're not going to stop this. They're not going to reverse it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got up there, and I had one of the legendary coaches, Bert Templeton.
Oh, wow.
Who has passed, obviously. But
yep.
He said he's always had his eye on me, but never really knew. He knew Seaforth. He knew what was going on. He said, I didn't draft you, my scout. We were thinking, but now I tried to get you last year as a rookie. And so anyway, we got there, and he played the piss out of me. Just played me. We had a good team. Kind of still developed, but so now you start playing with guys. Some guys have been drafted. Some guys, this is their draft year. My draft year was in Kitchener. I was just happy to be in Kitchener. So that's where I go back to the no pressure type thing, because I didn't even know I played in the NHL. I'm here. I'm happy. I'm in the OHL. So I'm not thinking too far ahead. So it's not overwhelming where I think some of these young guys come in, they're first rounders. We had a second rounder. They ended up not even playing barely into the third year of junior.
Yeah.
So it's funny how some things work. And then I got to the second year, I got up there and I got playing, and they said, you'll probably get drafted to Pittsburgh or somewhere. But it wasn't really my draft year. So I have a good year, and I ended up going 9th round to Pittsburgh, but really was not my draft year. So someone took another flyer on me to take me to Pittsburgh. So I went to training camp that year in Pitt, come back to North Bay, and then we had a really good team. So as you mentioned, it was coaches, teammates, family. Everybody was in your corner, kind of pushing, and definitely a good team helps. You're winning games, you're confident. Bert ran a pretty tight ship, actually a really tight ship. So I always tell
him, when it works, right?
And he was hard. I don't think that style would really work today with some of the younger kids from what I see and hear. And
Yeah.
it's a little
Yep.
more entitlement. You don't talk to me, and I understand things have changed, but we were like as kids, and he would be hard on you. You didn't get too far off the course. Everything was pretty. We had a curfew. He made it okay. If you guys 11 o'clock, you guys get up to second place, it's 11:30. Then we were up to first, it was 12. So we were at 12 most of the year. But as you know, 19-year-olds we always had to go home. You didn't really, because he had a pulse on everything in that city. He didn't know if he could. I think he knew the cops. He knew the billets, who he could call to get a. And he's got a couple guys, talked it through, and it was all he was like a father, because I just didn't want to go out, step out of line. My parents were always there and kind of they had their hand on the pulse too with schooling. You know, you got to go to school. We'll pay for your college, but you better pass the courses. Yeah. You know, so you have that bit of, you're thinking in your back of your head that if you mess up, I got my parents and I got Bert to deal with. So yeah. It's double whammy. So you tried to do what you could to stay straight and narrow. I don't think everything wasn't straight and narrow, but you kind of find your way back to center.
Yeah. So Dave, we got to get into the playoff run your third year. These 25 points in 24 games in the playoffs.
Yeah.
How did you guys do that year? That's a lot of games.
It was a tough playoff because I don't know if you were younger, wouldn't remember. So that year, the OHL decides to have this brainstorm of, we're going to have a super series to see who hosts the Memorial Cup before a year in advance. Like, this was the one and only time they ever did that. So they took Oshawa, and we were the top in the other. So we meet in the first round to see who holds the Memorial Cup. They beat us in Game 7. So they have home ice, Game 7, and they're ranked, they won. So then we both fall back into the playoff format. They win, we win, we win. Who do we play in the finals? Oshawa. Yeah. And it goes, so we have to win to get in. They're already hosting. And we lose in Game 7 again. So there's only 3 teams in the Memorial Cup. So they should have did the host, and then if we both went to the finals, both teams. Like, we played each other obviously 14 times in like a month and a half. We knew each other's grandmas by the time we were done. Like, it was almost like a personal. You saw their families after the game as the same team. Like every other day. It's like, yeah, everyone talks about it. It was really a silly situation.
Wow, that's amazing.
I think Medicine Hat ended up winning it that year, but we got the final last game. We were so beat up, so were they. Like, and you can imagine how tired everyone was. And then you go to the Memorial Cup. I don't understand the playoffs are tough, but you don't get whacked like that the first round. It's supposed to build up and be harder and harder. But we had made our way through again and battled again. But anyways, that was the one chance we could have got. We had a really good team. I think 7 or 8 guys went on to play in the NHL, which is not always that common. So it was a very good team.
Right on, Dave. Thanks for sharing that. So now, Dave, I know that you would have already done a couple training camps like before your first year pro with Pittsburgh, right? But yeah. I just want to talk about that 86 draft. So okay, so you were the 9th rounder, 172 overall. Okay, so I want to point that out first. Now, first of all, did you go to your draft?
I wasn't going to go through it like I did in junior because it was crushing. It was hard to. I just didn't want to sit through that again, and I didn't know if I was.
I understand.
Yeah, I was actually with some buddies here in Grand Bend, and my parents, we really didn't have cell phones then, so they phoned the cottage, got a hold of me and my buddies. I was away, and then I get in. They go, so what do you think? Would you like Pittsburgh? And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? They go, well, you just got drafted. Your parents just called. They called. You're drafted in Pittsburgh. So it was a Saturday afternoon, the day of the draft, and I was in Grand Bend, and that was kind of how I found out.
Wow. And thanks for sharing that. The reason why I understand is I didn't go to mine either, Dave. I was rated in like the 9th round or whatever, ended up going in the 8th. Right? So I get you, man. But
Yeah.
what kind of party did you have that night with your buddies and
I'm
Graham
pretty
Bennett?
sure it was a good time because I'd turned 19 then, so we were all legal, and I remember we did have a good time partying at a buddy's cottage that they had close by. So it was a fun night.
Right on, bro. Very, very. That was efficient. It was descriptive, and it was low key.
Well, I mean that is over 30 years ago, and I've had a few
I know, buddy.
productions, so those things are very blurry now.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. So, okay, another thing that I was really impressed about, Dave, was the fact that, I mean, you're playing for the North, and were they called the North Bay Centennials when you were there?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you're playing for North Bay 1 year, and then you enter your first year pro, and dude, I can't believe it, man. Like I can't believe it, like that you played all these games in your first year pro in the NHL,
Yeah,
right? Like to
yeah.
me, that's very impressive, especially. And I wanted to point it out to the listeners that you're a ninth round pick, so you're not like a shoe in here
No.
and you played a lot in your first year. So you must have had a very very good training camp. Like what? How did that all develop? Your first
Uh,
year.
That's a good question. There wasn't really, like I said, I never had that expectation. I just kind of went and played. I'm like, I'm a ninth rounder. Yeah, good junior career. We'll see what happens. And they had me penciled in. What was hard though, you come back, and it was the year of the '87 Canada Cup when Mario and Wayne connected, and Hamilton, and just took off from there. And so we were all waiting for Mario to come back from that. So
Oh,
it's exciting. He was a couple years older than me, but we were following him. And the training camp, I think, went okay, but they kind of had me penciled in a third line, fourth line checker, and had some older wingers that actually helped to bring me along. So I didn't really think that much of it, just kind of kept playing day by day by day, and just kind of went about my business. And I didn't really play. It was hard because I didn't really play that offensive role. I didn't play the power play where you're coming off in junior as a
yeah.
power play. So I kind of accepted the role and killed penalties. Very rarely played. It's tough to follow Mario on the power play and try to get enough ice time, right? It's kind of hard to tell. 66 to get off, and he just won the Canada Cup, and I'm a North Bay Centennial. He'd be like, "Here, sit down, kid. You'll get up I'll give you the nod when I'm tired." So that kind of how that went. Yeah, but here's what happened. So that year we never made the playoffs, and we had a good year. I went down, played the minors at the end. The next year I
Okay.
went into camp, and I was in the minors in a week. So that summer they changed the GM, the coach, a whole shakeup. So they brought in another guy, Johnny Cullen, kind of take my spot.
Yeah.
And I went right to the minors. I was up and down that year. We had a great team in the minors. We won the Turner Cup that year. Like Kevin Stevens, Mark Recchi was there. Frank Pietrangelo, the goalie. So we had a good team. We won it. And that summer, I got traded off to Winnipeg. So it's just kind of situations change, right? You get different management. It's like some guy might be in your corner and you leave, and someone new comes in, and you got to start all over again.
Exactly, dude. Now I'm a little bit excited to bring up this next topic. I'll be honest with you, Dave.
Okay.
So now I saw that this was the time that you got traded to Winnipeg. I also saw the guys that were involved in that trade, right? So
Yeah.
Cunny,
Yeah.
he coached me for 4 years in Rochester in the AHL.
Is
He's
that
my
right?
favorite. Yeah, man, he's my favorite coach. We would sit in the back of the bus and he would tell me stories from his old days
Yeah. Yeah.
and Winnipeg and all the man. And I know about the passion of Pittsburgh at that time. I know from Mike Bullard and Cunny about you guys being kind of cool with the football guys at the time and all those relations. I know it's
Yeah.
a very exciting time in your life, right?
Absolutely.
But how close were you and Cunny when you played in Pittsburgh? Are you guys buddies or?
Well, I actually was. As he was one of the older guys that I was going to mention that kind of took me under his wing. Dave Hannon was there, Dan Frawley, these type of guys, and I
Oh
was younger.
wow!
So those guys were maybe 28, 29, 30, but they were married guys and they brought us over for dinner. They took us under their wing. So I do have a good relationship with Cunny. And then we went to Winnipeg. We got traded. He let me live with him for a month or two. And unfortunately, he was supposed to come in to play with Dale Howarchuk. That was kind of it was basically Andrew McLean for Randy Cunningworth and then a bunch of other we were thrown in. And yeah, it didn't work out. And it kind of went really well for me. And he got traded to Hartford. So he was only in Winnipeg for 2 or 3. And then we ended up in Ottawa again. Back in the expansion.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, so I run into him. I'll see him here and there. I remember he was coaching in the American League, and I went over. Remember he went to Montreal. He got coached the Habs.
Yeah.
For a short
After
time.
he coached me, he got an opportunity with the Habs, but then he pretty much got pushed out of town because he couldn't speak Francais.
Yeah, and then I don't.
Right, it wasn't really fair for him.
Yeah,
right.
Randy was an honest player, tough player. Like he wasn't big, but he would fight a lot. But he played in Mario's wing a lot that time, and he was effective. Nothing fancy, but I think he had, I don't know how many goals he had that year. Maybe 30 with Mario, 25. But anyway.
Yeah, dude. So I wanted to get into also the success, like how you just mentioned, like the success that you had in Winnipeg, man. Like again, me being the stat guy, like I'm seeing Mr. Dave putting up 50-point seasons, right? So like I really like Winnipeg as a city. I wanted to ask you, like did you kind of fall in love with it right away? Like it just seems to be so hockey rich and culture rich. And how did you like it in Winnipeg?
Well,
the Peg.
It was cold as hell. First thing I did, it was like, got a command start for my truck. Everyone had them because they were outdoor parking at the old arena and made sure the vehicles were warm. There's so many, it was so cold there. Like you always had to plug your car in. I don't know how many times I drove to the rink with the cord hanging under my car because I forgot to unplug it in the morning. You don't think of that, but you needed it to start. Next year I was there. I made sure I got indoor parking somewhere, like condo where you could park underground. But yeah, I enjoyed Winnipeg. I didn't really care where I was as long as you're in the NHL. I miss Pittsburgh. I love Pittsburgh, your first city, good guys, good town. Like I really liked it there. So it's kind of your first trade's always kind of, shocked, but we adjusted. And I got ice time. I played a lot. Still didn't play I think I had one power play goal out of 25. But the year I did that, I did score like 7 shorthanded goals. I don't know why. I got played a lot. I played with a guy named Doug Smale. He was quick. When we got the puck, we were gone. Like we had so many opportunities shorthanded, and we were allowed to do it. Obviously, if situation was right. But him and I had some good success killing penalties.
So now and I appreciate you sharing that. So now we we were kind of laughing before the recording, and you were heckling me a little bit about all the junior teams I played for, because I think I know Brian McGrattan.
I think it was 6. I checked. It was 6.
I'm 6. I think Brian McGrattan is 7. So I think he's got the record, but I'm gotta be way at the top of the list. So I'm definitely have to accept the banter. We always get each other, us hockey guys, right? That's just the way it is in the room. Yeah. So now I want you to know, like this isn't about banter. I'm actually very interested because I think it's incredible. Just to be able to play in the NHL is one thing, Dave. But you have a record of playing for and you share this with other players. Yeah. But you have a record for playing for the most NHL teams in one season. 4, my friend.
Yeah.
I played for 3 teams in 1 year in junior. But this is the NHL. This is the show, right?
Yeah.
So
it was complicated, I think, but the record actually is I played in every division in 1 year. So there was the Smythe division. I went to the Adams, to the Patrick, and ended up in the Norris. There is another guy that did 4 teams, but it wasn't every division.
Okay.
So there's a lot of records to be in the book for. Wayne's got scoring about 1,000 records. Mine's for being traded. So hey, your name's
but I mean, like, okay, I guess I was brainwashed this way because I got traded a few times in junior, and this is what people would tell me to kind of pump my tires, right, Dave? So they would say, listen, man, yeah, you got traded 4 times, right? But
Yeah.
4 teams acquired you.
Yeah.
All these teams want you, right? So it's not like you're just being bumped around, like you're being acquired, my friend,
Well,
right?
yeah, that's the mentality you have to have, because if it's the other one that no one didn't want you, you wouldn't be on that 4 team at the end of the year. So, and the story goes that I went to Buffalo to get to Long Island. Whether
Okay.
that's true or not, because I was there 2 weeks, they tell you whatever they want to tell you. So the Islanders. I get there. Oh, we were trying to get you from Winnipeg. Now we got here, and it's the same. Every traded guy has some story. So I get to Buffalo. I'm there literally 2 weeks. My
Yeah.
stuff is boot. I went on a road trip with Winnipeg and never went back to my condo. They just went in, packed it, shipped it to Buffalo. It's the Thursday night. I signed the lease for a new place to live. Furniture's coming the Friday. Cars sitting on the Ontario side. I was going to go over and drive it. Like a morning skate on the Friday. We're playing, getting ready for a game, and all of a sudden I'm walking out and I see Uwe Krupp walking in, Benny Hogue, and who else went there? Anyway, there's I'll think of it in a second. Oh, Pierre Turgeon's walking in, and
Oh, wow.
I'm walking out, and there's John Muckler. He goes, Mac, just wait in here for a second. I'm like, what? And these guys are all pumped. They're getting traded. I just got here. So am I with you guys again? Like, I didn't know what to think. But anyway, sure enough, I'm fourth guy in. I come out. I'm pissed. I'm like, fuck, traded again? Like, what? Why? What's so? I had to be on a train or plane with these guys that afternoon to go to Long Island. And then they traded two guys, Steve Thomas and Adam Creighton, in from Chicago. So the next night, Saturday night, we have like 8 new guys in the lineup from all this big trade with the Islanders. But it's
Yeah.
like, I'm sure you've been traded. There's different guys. I always say it was basically me for Pat LaFontaine, and Buffalo threw in Pierre Turgeon. So that's kind of
There you
how,
go.
that's the story I'm telling. Yeah, then I ended up in Long Island for 52 games, and I can lead into the next trade how that happened. So it's trade deadline. Islanders have a game that night. Trade deadline ends at 3 p.m. It's 2:45. I'm sleeping, and my roommate was Jeff Finley, and he was down having lunch or playing pool or whatever you do when you're not playing.
Yeah.
GM's done. Maloney, he phones me, says, Dave, is Finner there? I was like, no, he's down, playing pool or eating or whatever. And he goes, oh, by the way, we made a trade. I'm like, oh, okay. Finner's. He goes, no, we've traded you to Toronto. And then I gotta go, why me all the time? Like, what is going on? But it was weird. He phones for Jeff, and then he leads into, oh, by the way, you got traded, because he needed Jeff to play that night because we got traded. But the reason it was, not the reason, but Ken Baumgartner, you're probably fan of Bombers, great guy.
The Bomber,
tough as nails. And he got in a fight with Al Arbor. He sent him out to fight Dave Brown at the end of a game in Philly. Bomber hadn't played a shift. You know what it's like to go out and then you're fighting the toughest guy in the league. And Bomber broke his orbital bone. And just since then, and Bomber wanted out, and he wanted to be traded. So I was put in the deal with him to Toronto, which, was great. At the time, I wasn't happy, but it worked out. Got a chance to play with in Toronto. So that was the end of the 4 teams that year. So I never did see my furniture, just to let you know. When it came to Buffalo, I just put it in storage, and I found a furnished spot and shipped her home in the summer.
Right on, man. Right on. So, okay. So now, how long of a drive would Seaforth be from the GTA?
It's 2 hours, 2:15.
Okay.
Yeah,
because you're not far from London, right?
No, I moved Grenben's, C4. It's all pretty close.
Yeah.
We're just the other side of Stratford, so it's not.
Right on.
It's not too bad.
Yeah. So, like, as we were talking again before the recording, Dave, that this was the time that I started really watching the NHL, man. And I remember you, man. I remember you skating around Maple Leaf Gardens, buddy, in 1992, early 90s is when I started watching. And, every Saturday night, Dave, my culture growing up would be I'd walk over to my grandfather's house, have hot chocolate, raisin bran toast, and watch Hockey Night in Canada on a Saturday night. Like if my minor hockey team wasn't playing, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how I grew up. And like I remember watching you. So it's so cool, to be able to pick your brain about this time. Now, I know by the way that you talked about it that I think that year the team may not have had the greatest results, but I believe that was kind of the start of really excitement back in Toronto, man, because the following seasons after that was when they really had cup runs, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I got there, that 92, Dougie just came and the trade with Calgary, the big trade. And then we got down, then there was a lockout. I think we missed the playoffs by like a point. That summer went on, they ended up bringing Pat Burns in. And we had a decent team. We just were very solid. Like, it wasn't like we blew it out of the water or anything. Burnsy, kept a close eye on everyone. He was a very tough coach. Some guys liked him, some guys didn't. Like, there's a lot of controversy there. All the fans think I'm, a great coach because he got the bet. Well, there were some difficult times too. I'm not sour grapes that, I didn't play as much as you wanted, but there's guys that did play a lot that would answer the same way I do. But he got the best out of the team. I think we kind of got together at the right time at playoffs. We had a solid team of veterans, and Felix come in and was unconscious. And then we got Dave Anderchuk in from Buffalo for the Grand Fuhrer, and blah. They just kind of come together. Dave had a crazy good year that year. He had 50 that year, but then it come to the playoffs and we played Detroit. And I was in and out of the lineup in Detroit, but it was just one of those seasons that we were able to upset Detroit. So that's the number one gone. And then I think it was the Islanders upset Pittsburgh. So that's how we ended up playing St. Louis, got to LA. I think we could have beat St. Louis, would have helped us, but Cujo stood on his head. Game 7, we win. And then it's the infamous LA series that everyone talks about. But, it's easy to look back. Well, Gretzky had a high stick. He should have been out. Yeah, maybe. Who knows? And then he comes in. We still could have won it at home in Game 7. But he is the game of his life. And, we lose in Game 7. So I think we're in good position going in there to win. We're up 3-2. We just have to win one of the next 2 games. But as it didn't happen. It would have been an ideal Montreal-Toronto final. It probably won't happen ever again, right? It depends what happens if they change things. But I think it was CBC's dream final to have Montreal-Toronto. Not to say we did well against them during the season. We won the series. Not to say you're going to win the playoffs, but I think and they were on a hell of a run too. I think they won 11 overtime games that year. So you never know, but it would have been exciting. And that was kind of that. It was exciting. It was great. I played with some great players over the year. Just, you take bits and pieces from different leaderships, different work ethics, and how you approach the game. I was one of the younger guys then, but I was only 25. So you still had and then the next year I picked up in waivers and went to Ottawa and year 2 of an expansion team. And trust me, it was a mental part of the game that you became stronger or very weak. I think we won 15 games that year. So we had Alexander Dagg, young upcoming team, and I was I got played a lot, but we lost a lot. So it was, I think I had maybe 50 points. I hurt my knee that year, but I was still minus 48. That wasn't even the worst plus minus in the team. If you get out of those games minus 2 or 3, it was a good game.
A good night.
I played a lot. So, and we weren't very good, but anyways, that stat's overrated anyway, as we always say, right?
Yeah, dude. So Dave, I wanted to add a little bit to what you were saying. So first of all, dude, this playoff series that you just explained, for a Toronto fan, it was so entertaining, man. Like, I'll tell you one thing. When your teammate, Nikolai Borshevsky, scored that goal in Detroit, and it was so crazy. I forget. No, hold on a second. Wait, was it Foligno or Borchowski that scored that one?
Borchowski.
Foligno scored an earlier game winner in the
scored
series.
maybe game 5 or 6, like
Okay.
did the old
So,
jump
yeah.
in the air type Foligno.
With the helmet.
Yeah.
Tell me you chirped him about his helmet, Dave.
Oh, every day.
Come on.
Day. It was the ugliest Northland. It was a Northlander. They don't even make it, but it was soft. It had all that really thick foam in there.
How did you guys let him go out there like that?
He wasn't in it for the style. Like they called him Gazoo or something. Like Dougie's a great chirper. Like he was always, he could go with the best of me. He always made me laugh. That's for sure. But Mike could take it. He could dish it out too. Just, I don't know, that team, we had a good group of guys, older guys that have been around, and a lot of, experience, I guess, that could handle it. But Nick come in, that was his first year, scores that massive goal, and away we go on to the next series. Like they counted us out after we were down 2-0 in Detroit.
Yeah.
And that's came back 2-2, 3-2, 3-3, and then get to game 7, you never know, right? We know that. That's kind of how it goes.
If a nearby city was outside at the time that Borchowski scored that goal in the first round, like I'm telling you, I remember screaming, "Yeah!" The whole city must have been screaming. You would have thought it was like a bomb or something that happened.
Yeah.
You know what happened? Is there a war starting? No. Nikolai Borchowski just getting the G-dub.
Well, and back to your point, you mentioned about all of a sudden it was that year. They'd had so many crappy years up to there, so many coaches. And I played alumni games with some of those guys, the Brophy days, like the stories these guys told me, and Harold Ballard those days. And then Cliff come in with us and kind of got the professionalism back into the hockey team. But that city was buzzing. Like it was, once we got in that, because they hadn't really done very much, and it was shitty times. And then all of a sudden it's like, now we beat Detroit. And it was crazy. Like it was, we couldn't go any. Wendell couldn't go in. We lived together, and I remember.
You lived with Wendell?
Yeah, the 1 year there.
Wow.
So he couldn't go anywhere, right? He was, and now it's he can anyway. But I had to go get the groceries, and but the city was they were all on him. I mean, he embraces it now. At the time, he was a little more reserved, I guess. But now he's obviously he's out there and. Great ambassador of the game, and then you get to the finals. I remember we went to City Hall and we didn't even get to the finals, and the people that were there
for the conference final, right?
Yeah,
against
LA.
LA.
Lost to LA.
Yeah,
and I was like, I couldn't imagine if Toronto wins the Stanley Cup. Like it'd be. We saw with the Raptors. I'm sure the Leafs would be like a different level.
But I think it would, like, as big of a movement as the Raptors was, brother, like how it was the whole country, this, that, the other, you know what I mean?
More of a country, right.
And I was part of it. I still think the Leaf Parade would top it.
Oh, I hope we're around to see one. Let's leave it.
Yeah. I mean, we got a team now. We just got to get over this playoff hump.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
There's pieces here
Get a goalie
to hopefully put it together. I think they're up there shuffling the deck on goaltenders right now. That's kind of obviously, but I was saying to someone there, I was just like, okay, this new kid comes in, maybe you run it. He's not even thinking what's going on. He's just going to play. It's no good when Felix came in. Felix didn't know what was going on. He got pushed in because Grant was hurt and Rick Walmsley was hurt. So we had to use Felix. And then he just rode it. And away he went. You never know how. But it's got to be hard, and Shanny and Dubas trying to think of, okay, what do we do here? And injuries? Do we get the depth? And who do we move? Can we get them in? And like, you don't know about the salary cap. Like, there's a lot of factors that you just don't go. Go get Marc-Andre Fleury. Okay, well,
might not work that way.
What are we going to do, or who's going to pretend they're hurt till the end of the season, right? Like, but we don't go with the cap.
So, and are you referring to the Leafs calling up the gentleman that had just got called up, the goalie, the emergency call-up? What's his name again? That guy, man, I couldn't believe it. I was watching the game, and I'm like, this guy just got called up. What an opportunity that is.
Yeah, like the night before, he's probably sitting there like, well, Leaf game tomorrow night, all right. And then he gets a call in the morning, like, oh, actually, you're going to back up tonight. And then 12 hours later, you're actually playing.
You're in.
Yeah.
You're in.
Funny, he's a Swedish kid. I don't even. It's Gars. It starts with GR, but it's not said like that.
Yeah, no, I could easily look it up. I was pretty
Scottish.
impressed that he was getting an opportunity so shortly after the
Right.
emergency
And
call.
I could see the coach sitting there going, okay, they want to pull him after 2, but we really can't because I want to get Mrazek's confidence up. Be a tough situation for this young kid at first game. So what do we do? And then third, then he probably just went, okay, get in there. Let's see what happens. We got to.
Yeah.
And it worked for a bit. Unfortunately, they lost in overtime, but those are decisions a coach has to make, and I guess that's why he's paid the big bucks, and you and I are sitting here talking. So,
no, exactly, buddy. So, dude, I wanted to. Okay, now, before I even get into Germany, I just wanted to talk about the success. There was a team that I saw. When you played for the Cleveland Lumberjacks, you just ripped it up, Dave. What was the situation in Cleveland? What was going on there? Was this a great group of guys, or what?
We had a good team. So how I ended up in Cleveland, I went there from Ottawa. So I had good confidence coming out of Ottawa. I played pro, so I went there. So Cleveland's team, they were the farm team of Pittsburgh. So the owner had moved them from Muskegon to Cleveland, and I played for him when we won in Muskegon. So he bought my contract to go play there. That's when we sold, like Mark Lamb went to Houston, Gord Deneen went somewhere, Sylvain Turgeon went to Houston. They were just trying to get rid of our contracts. And at the time, the I was paying good money, so they paid half my contract, ended up there. So anyway, I played a lot. We only had 3 lines every game, and that's the way it was in the I. And Pittsburgh was at every game, and I just was having fun again after being in Ottawa and not winning a lot. So we were in the minors, but we had good road trips, good bunch of guys. Some guys that had played the NHL and were just kind of like that. But you still had to play, right? You could have a shitty attitude of being in the minors, but I was kind of like, okay, Pittsburgh's watching. And I ended up getting traded back to Pittsburgh at the trade deadline. So it worked out all right.
And a second go around with them as well.
Yeah. I played in the playoffs there, and so that was a good experience. One more year in the I was up and down
Black
the
and
next
yellow.
year with the Islanders, but I was with Cleveland most of the time. Then I decided to go to Europe, so that's kind of how it moved on to there. So
so now, Dave. Now at this time in your life, I mean, obviously you're every year for a player, pretty much, if it's a contract season, the season's done. There's some kind of deadline date that you got to get extended or qualified or offered or whatever, right? And it's a little bit stressful, but for you, you're looking back at it, and like I'm looking at it, and one thing I think is super cool is the fact that you got that 100th goal. Like, ladies and gentlemen, this guy has a 100. Was it?
I got called up for 3 weeks. They were making a push for the playoff, and I had Rick Bowness was the coach, and he had me in Ottawa. So he said, I want just come and be part of the team, and you can help us. And I got a game. I remember it was in Dallas, maybe a power play. Yeah, and I scored right near the last game or two before I left.
Wow.
So,
I mean, 100 goals. So you were sitting on 99. And you were in the I, and you got called up to get that 100?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, it was good.
That's awesome.
You don't really think of it now. You look back, so that's kind of cool to have 100 instead of 99. But
man. Yeah, the only person that wants 99 is Gretz, man.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only guy that likes that number, right? Yeah. And then, so anyway, I mean, 207 points. You had a really decent NHL career. You got to play 500 games, man. Like that was a good career. 501 to be exact, right?
Yeah.
That's something to be proud of, Dave.
I was. It wasn't. I look at the guy now. You see at the end how many pro games you actually played. Like, NHL is the ultimate, but if you can keep playing at some level, you just keep going and doing it. I'm proud of the 500 games. Do you wish it was 1,000? Of course, but I had another experience after that I can look back at.
Yes. So that's exactly what I wanted to get to, Dave. And you're the perfect person to ask because of how long, how consistent, and how successful you were in Europe, right? So as I said in the intro, buddy, screw the 500. You nearly have 1,000 games in the NHL and DEL. And
Yeah.
and ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that don't know, the DEL is Germany's top league, but the DEL is one of the best leagues in
Yeah.
all of Europe.
Yeah.
In my opinion,
I'd
do you agree?
consider like good teams there would be like top American League teams. So, yeah, it's not easy. That's for sure. I can get into some of that later, but yeah, you look back and I think I added up the other day. It was something like 1,250 and who knows 1,000 exhibition games over there because they do that in training camp. You have
That's
like
right. The
15,
friendlies,
it's crazy. And then
right?
you do these friendship tournaments and this tournament and
Yeah.
that. And, I did 4 Spangler Cups and
All these
then you got
cups,
your
yeah.
playoffs in Germany. So I'm thinking there was like a good 1,300.
Maybe 1,500.
Well, yeah, if you start like every training camp, I was there 12 years. We played 10 exhibition games. So
Yeah, I
120
think
games.
hockey. Yeah, Dave, hockey DB. I think they just count the DEL for the ones that they keep track of. I saw all those other seasons, so I know that you definitely passed 1,000, 1,200, 13, 14, whatever it was. But I just thought that because people know the DEL, they know that league.
Do they have
I
the
knew
Swiss league on there? I forget. Is the Swiss league on there? Before?
Yeah, for Burn for Burn SC. Yeah,
SC
bro,
Burn.
the 49 points in 45 games, buddy. It's really out there, bro.
Yeah. So all those experiences. I mean, I'll be honest. When my agent was always trying to get over there because he says you're the type of guy, the player that they were looking for. So I waited as long as I could. I went over. I honestly really didn't like it my first year because I went to a small town. The arena was not the nicest arena. You're coming out of NHL arena. It's a little spoiled, I guess you could say. The dressers, the guys were great. Town was okay. We had a good team. But it just wasn't like, I think when you go over, you kind of have that mentality, well, maybe I could go back. Maybe I got another chance to go back. I had fun in the IHL. Maybe I'm glad I didn't because it went under. And then I went that summer. I got a great contract to go to Bern for 2 years. Once I went there and had the mindset that, okay, it's finished over here, just enjoy the time here, then I did. And it was getting in the right situation, the right town. Bern was great. Then I ended up going to Cologne for 9 years. So I love Cologne. We had a brand new arena, brand new practice facility, million people.
No way.
Yeah, so it was a great situation. Hockey was, I always considered or looked at Cologne, like they had Mannheim, Cologne, like they were like the Montreal, Torontos of the NHL. Like there was a following. They either love you or they love you but are mad at you. Like it's kind of you have to play, you have to produce, you have to have that rapport with the fans. That's a lot about what you see the soccer player. Not that I don't want to compare the hockey to soccer, but it's kind of like that relationship with the fans. Like the fans are very passionate. Soccer, you can see that with the hockey, the games, they would be cheering from the time you walked in to the time you left. Even with you losing, they might be whistling, but that's part of it. But it was a good experience. You get in the right situation. But I'll tell you, there's a lot of guys that do go over there. I'll give an example. Mike Johnson, TSN, great guy. Johnny was awesome. So he was coming over. He was going to play with Todd Warner and myself. And Mike come over and he'll tell the story. He's honest. He goes, he couldn't get it going. He was injured from January the year before, shoulder surgery. Come over. He just mentally wasn't ready, maybe physically. But Johnny was a great player. I know he could have helped us, but he just wasn't in the mindset to be there. And they ended up getting rid of him, unfortunately, at Christmas time. And that happened. My point was you have to come, you have to play. It's not like everyone's like a European vacation. Well, it could be, but it won't be very long. Exactly. Right? So they expect you and to perform. And there's a lot of good players over there, whether it's the Swiss guys or German or some of the import guys coming. Like it's good hockey. Like you could people come over. I had a lot of family, friends come over, and they're like, okay, you got to be able to play and be ready and keep going. So it was the right mindset. I think you can have success over there.
The experiences I find, Dave, are priceless for players that go over there, right?
Absolutely.
So like I find the experiences are absolutely priceless. What I found was interesting. To add to what you were saying about, yeah, people think European vacation. Well, it's not going to be a long one for sure if that's your type of attitude, right? You
Yeah.
know, you got to compete and you got to keep your spot. What I would hear now, I played in the UK, which is a lot lower of a level than the leagues that you played in, but
Yeah.
I would hear the term a player getting fired
Yeah.
very often. That was like a normal term. Oh, they fired him. Oh, he got fired. I'm like,
Yeah.
fired? I'm like, man, I better like keep
Stick it
my,
out.
in good terms with everyone here. I don't want to get fired, right?
Yeah.
I'd never heard that term when I was in North America.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, or coaches get fired all the time. Like they can be harsh if they're expecting you at this level and you're one of the import guys. It can be good and bad. It can be great if you're playing great. It can be bad. It seems like a lot falls on the import guys. And when you're in Switzerland, we only had 3 imports. So
Oh, wow.
when you're going good, a lot of time it's the Swiss guys, and when it's
Yeah.
going bad, it's like they blame the imports.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was a lot on you. Where we went to Cologne, it had opened up to like 14 imports. I think it's back to 10 now, but it was dispersed amongst different guys. But you still had your top imports and then some other guys not as well. You had to have a budget, right? Couldn't pay everyone like a top import. It just
Oh,
didn't
no.
work. So anyways, it was like you said, you had to be ready or you were fired. It was,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So now,
and
sorry, go ahead, Dave.
no, I said I never witnessed that with me, and I would have
Yep.
liked one of these buyouts at the end for like 4 years.
Oh, yeah.
I just never got one of those that I see guys be like a little severance package when you retire.
Yeah. So I know we're running a little bit short on time, Dave, but I just wanted to touch up on just a couple more things. So now the one thing, because you played in Switzerland. Now I played with a couple of guys. Steve Brule is one specifically. Now he mentioned that because he had a kid that was born when he was playing there, and he was just telling me, he was like, Sean, like I'm at the hospital and I have like this, very elegant looking woman come up to me, ask me if I want tea, coffee, herbal this, would I
Yeah.
like an orange or a banana? And like he just said, it's just so nice in some of those situations over there. Like, you know what I mean? Switzerland's supposed to be known for their healthcare and their banks, right?
Yeah.
And so did you get to see some of those benefits? Like,
I didn't spend a lot of hospital time in Switzerland. I had a couple operations in Germany, which they were very good, like with private insurance. Like they looked after you very well. They made sure because
yeah,
they wanted you were the import. They wanted you ready and healthy and ready to go. We need you. We rely on you. So they all that part was great. Great systems, great experiences. You got at the time, my wife and I, we didn't have kids, so we were out a lot, and you got to meet Swiss people, different cultures, where sometimes the imports kind of congregate together and don't really expand and
yeah,
witness all this. And if they accept you in Switzerland, it's not easy to get in, but if they do, they will involve you in a lot of different things, and you get to enjoy different cultures with Switzerland, whether it was Germany, whether it was, that's what you wanted to do. You wanted to be, that was what it was about, is these experiences. So I had nothing bad to say. Even my first year, it was still a great experience, but it just was, you got to be comfortable where you're playing. You want to be, this is where I want to be. And you want to be happy going to the rink. You want to enjoy because you're there every day for whatever, 4 or 5 hours. So,
yeah,
and there was some good, obviously you'd have the odd day. I call it a German day, but we have those here too, right? Like not every day's,
yeah.
roses and champagne. So it's,
Oh, yeah.
you kind of take it in stride. The German people I have a lot of good friends over there still. So it was we get back now and again for a few games here and there and visits. So I do enjoy going. But it was a second home. I was there 12 years or in Cologne for
Yeah.
9. So it was like my second home.
Yeah. So did they do testimonials in Germany?
They
Testimonial games?
well, they do different guys. The German guys, if they retired, like a Mirko Ludemann, was a legendary guy. So we went over for his, what they call it. There's a German word for it, but Goo would know what it is. But it's like a farewell game. It's kind of like
Okay. Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
and then way you go off into the sunset,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Isn't that
You don't really do that with the import guys, but
okay? Right on.
maybe Goo had one. He was a legend in the second league there, so, or at least he tells me he was. So I'm not.
Yeah, I know. The Goots. So yeah, man. So like, I mean, oh yeah. So your wife was with you when you were there?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
No, just because like, sorry, go ahead, Dave.
No, and that's a big part of when you do go over there, and it's weather. So it's a big change from even the wives and girlfriends to go over because they're on their own in a different country, language barriers. But if they can immerse themselves and make the best of it, it's great. She had a great time. Some wives don't. That's why guys' careers over there maybe are a little shorter than others.
Yeah.
Because, happy wife, happy life. And some just don't like it. And there's situations where guys have kids, they get to a certain age, they want them back into school. And that's kind of the end of the career. They're moving on to a different life. But she always liked it. Everybody, you make the best of it, whatever situation you're in over there. So
yeah, no, the reason why I'm getting into it just before we go is because like I liked kind of let, because there's a lot of players, younger players that are, in their first part of their careers that listen to the show, and they just don't understand, Dave, how big of the opportunities are to go over there. Like, and these guys will grind it out in the coast. They'll be grinding out in the American League, and it'll be like, dude, you can make even more money and not have to risk injury as much and be able to have such a cool life experience. Yeah. And if your girl's willing to go with you, it's like a fairy tale almost. Like an hour flight. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
It's hard for the kids in the lower leagues. I was coming out of the NHL, so it's all about your resume, right? So if they're willing to maybe go over to a second league or work their way up to show that you can play. Not everyone's made for a European game. Bigger ice surface. It's a little different. You got to kind of adjust your game. If you're willing to do it like here, whether you go to the East Coast League and work your way up, you can do that over there too. It's not just because, you're in the NHL. Well, yeah, but I worked my way to get there, so my resume's there, right? It's just the way it works. Like you can work. Guys do it. So if you can go over and get one opportunity and work your way, that you can get to the top leagues there. It definitely could happen.
Yeah, and then the other part of it, Dave, is just like the whole fact that, like, for example, I played in the UK, 1 year in Ireland, 1 year in Scotland. Before I came home from Scotland, like I was with my fiance at the time, we were like, okay, so let's go somewhere before we go home. I mean, an hour flight, we can be in 10 different countries. Like everything's right there. Like and all the breaks that they have in those leagues, all the different breaks. Like we had like 5 breaks.
Yeah. So they usually had like a national break in November. Then they had, whenever Switzerland had a big Christmas break, but Germany kept playing. And then we got another national break. But we always made the best of it, traveled over there. Like you could drive, like I was in Landshut, which is right near Munich. We could, like a day, you're down into Italy, like so easy in 3 or 4 hours. You go Austria, you're right through. We did that quite often. So you make the best of it, right? So it's do the breaks, and if you get a chance to fly, it's close. You're not 6 hours. So I think before we go, you'll probably want to ask. You never really asked me about the World Junior.
Well, I saw it. I had Scotty Metcalf on my show.
Oh,
right?
Okay. So the whole story. That's awesome.
I know the story, and it does mention on Wikipedia that you were like obviously you were on that team, but it says this was the year that was what do they call it? They call it they call it
punch up in Piastani is what.
Yeah, the punch up in Piastani, right? So
it might be a lot.
I mean,
you've heard Scotty's version, so that's good. I'm sure it was great.
I heard Scotty's version. He loves to talk about it, especially now that time has passed now, so he feels he could be more honest about it, right? About what really happened, because just the years following, maybe he wasn't saying exactly what happened, but now he says exactly what happened.
Yeah. And it's hard. The longer it goes back, you're trying, and then you do meet guys, or you run into Theo here and there, different guys, and you're just kind of like, oh yeah, that happened. Or I probably listen to Scotty's version. I'd be like, oh, I didn't remember that. Right. So you get different views after what I thought happened, what he might thought, or you don't know. So it's great. I'm glad someone was able to let it out and tell about it, and it was quite a good experience.
I mean, I was blessed to be able to have Theo as a special guest as well. I don't think we got into the brawl. I mean, this guy, I mean, there were so many things to talk about with him, right? Like, I'm not sure if we got into it, but man, that was something. Like when I saw that, like I was super, super young. And like, I just remember thinking like, if the best players, they have passion too. Because I used to just think it was like the slower, bigger players. They were the only ones with that kind of passion. But now I see Team Canada, they're all willing to throw down. Everyone's got passion.
We had some tough guys in that team. Like it wasn't built for, well, we could muck it up with any. That team, we had some tough guys. Like Shanny was on, and the late Steve Chase on, and Theo and Mike Keane and Matter, like just we had a real character team and tough. So obviously you could see that, and a lot of memories out of that one.
Yeah, dude.
Unfortunately, we don't have the medal, but I always tell the story. Like we actually there's a medal on my Instagram that is actually the one Harold Ballard gave us, and maybe Scotty mentioned that. It was probably nicer than the one we would have got over there because he hated the Russians at the time. And we fought him. We never got the medal, but we all got one, and they're personalized. Our numbers are on it. Like it was pretty sweet memento. Obviously, Theo was lucky. He went back the next year and actually won in Russia. So he got to recoup. We were all suspended for a year from international hockey, but the next year, Theo, I think he probably captained the team, but he went Jimmy Way. They were able to revisit and get their real
get it.
So, yeah, it was all good.
Dude. Yeah, no, that's awesome, and I appreciate you sharing that, Dave. Like I don't even know if you realize, but like I'm on the edge of my seat listening to your stories, buddy.
Oh,
like, I was so entertained. I appreciate it. I know we've gone over the limit, but I appreciate it so much, dude. I mean, dude, when I first started watching the NHL, bro, you're wheeling around the gardens, right? And it means a lot to me to have people that I look up to have on my show. So I wanted to thank you again, buddy, for coming on.
Awesome. Hey, anytime we get to talk hockey, I'm sure all the old guys go down memory lane for an hour. It's just trying to remember. I don't know how I'm going to remember this in another 10 years, but it might even get better. We do all the events and that. I start using other guys' stories because I hear so many of these guys' stories that I love hearing. So I'm like, oh yeah, well this guy did this and this guy did that. So
right on. Well, Dave McLlwain, I got to put you on the spot. Are you willing to come back for a part 2?
Sure. I don't know if I got enough info for another one, but we can always find something. Absolutely, if you need.
Awesome, something. Buddy. Awesome. Yeah. No, so I appreciate it, and I want to thank the listeners for tuning in to another episode of The Sheriff featuring special guest, the legend Dave McLlwain.